The farm dogs began barking before sunrise. Not their usual warning bark for coyotes or strangers, something deeper, uneasy. At the edge of the pasture, just beyond the fence line, a shape moved through the tall grass. Huge, silent, golden in the pale morning light. One of the old ranch dogs stepped forward. And then something strange happened. Instead of barking, the dog started running toward the animal. Because standing there in the mist was a full-grown lion. And somehow, the dog seemed to recognize him. The rancher watching from the porch froze. A lion had no business being anywhere near this farm. But the dog kept running across the field, tail wagging cautiously. And when the lion stepped closer, lowering its massive head toward the dog, something became clear. This was not a predator hunting livestock. This was something else entirely. To understand why a wild lion would return to a quiet farm years later, you have to go back to a much smaller creature. A tiny cub that almost didn't survive. It had started during a dry season, when wildlife often wandered too close to farmland. One evening, the rancher heard something strange near the back fence. A faint sound, weak, almost like a kitten crying. When he walked out to investigate, he found a lion cub barely the size of a house cat, alone. The cub's mother had likely been killed by poachers or chased off by other predators. It happened sometimes in the wild areas beyond the ranch. Without her, the cub had almost no chance. He was thin, shaking, and covered in dust. The rancher had no idea what to do with a lion cub. But before he could decide, one of his farm dogs had already made the decision for him. The dog's name was Max, a large, calm livestock guardian that had spent years protecting sheep and goats. Max approached the cub slowly. The tiny lion didn't hiss, didn't run. He simply collapsed into the grass. Max sniffed him once, then gently nudged him with his nose. From that moment on, the cub never left Max's side. The rancher contacted a wildlife rescue center. But the nearest facility was hundreds of miles away, and they needed time to arrange transport. Until then, the cub had to stay on the farm. And surprisingly, Max took the role seriously. He slept beside the cub every night. If the cub wandered too far, Max quietly guided him back. When the cub cried, Max lay beside him like a patient older brother. Slowly, day by day, the cub grew stronger. Weeks turned into months. The cub grew fast, the way lions always do. His paws became larger than Max's. His playful swats could knock over buckets and tools around the farm. But with Max, he was always gentle. When Max walked, the young lion followed. When Max rested in the shade, the lion curled beside him like a giant golden cat. The rancher often watched them from the porch. A farm dog and a lion cub, side by side in the dust. It looked impossible. Neighbors started hearing about it. People drove past the ranch hoping to catch a glimpse of the strange pair. But the rancher knew something everyone else tried to forget. The cub would not stay small forever. And eventually, the wild would come calling. The first real warning came the day the lion tried to roar. It wasn't loud yet, more like a rough, uncertain growl. But the sound carried across the pasture. And suddenly, the rancher realized something. The cub was not just growing. He was becoming a lion. By the time the wildlife authorities finally arrived, the young lion was already enormous. Too large to remain on a farm, too wild to live among livestock. The officers explained that the lion would be taken to a wildlife rehabilitation reserve where he could eventually return to the wild. The rancher understood, but Max didn't tee. The morning the transport truck arrived, Max sat beside the crate. The lion paced inside, restless and confused. For a long moment, the two animals simply stared at each other. Then the lion pressed his nose against the metal bars, and Max gently touched it with his own. The truck door closed, and the lion disappeared down the dusty road. Years passed. The ranch returned to its quiet routine. Max grew older, his muzzle slowly turning gray. The strange story of the lion cub became just another memory told around the dinner table. Something that had happened once and was over. Until one early morning when the farm dog started barking again. The rancher stepped onto the porch, and there, beyond the pasture fence, stood a massive lion. Muscular, powerful, fully grown. The rancher felt his heart race. But before he could react, Max began moving across the field. Not running to attack, running to greet. The lion watched him approach. Still, silent. Then slowly the lion lowered his head. Max stopped just inches away. For a moment neither animal moved. Then the lion leaned forward and gently pressed his forehead against the old dog's head, just like he had done as a cub. Max wagged his tail slowly. And for a brief moment, in the quiet pasture, the wild and the farm remembered each other. Some animals forget, but others carry memories farther than we ever expect, sometimes across years, sometimes across the wild itself, and sometimes all the way back home. If this story moved you, consider liking the video and subscribing for more incredible animal stories from around the world.